Welcome, everybody, to The Vine and the Veil, the podcast where we journey between worlds to reveal the mysteries of the light and the dark, the wisdom of the spiritual, the wonder of the mystical, and the power of the supernatural. I'm your host, Carlos, and this is my co-host,
Maria.
Yes. And so I've been looking forward to this podcast since we talked about it in our last one, because we're going to delve into the world of vampires. Now, vampires are like, if you don't know what a vampire is, then I think you've been under a rock for a long time. Or maybe you're a vampire that hasn't come out in millennia. But this is a really, really exciting topic. What do you think? Vampires real? Not real?
I think there's a possibility they're real. I know I say that a lot, but there's just so much history in there. One of the things that in researching like the origins of vampire that I thought was interesting is the first one was Lilith, right? So
right.
Yes.
If you believe in that lore, yes. Right? Lilith was in the Bible. She was Adam's first wife.
Adam's first wife. That's yes. Correct.
She was actually made whole.
Yes. And then the lore of the blood sucking actually came from the story of Cain and Abel.
Okay.
So Cain, after everything that happened with his brother, ended up being cast out and made immortal to suffer. So in order to ease the pain, Lilith actually showed him how to thrive or live off of blood.
So I wonder if, he got kicked out, because she got kicked out first, right?
Yes.
And then she was like, yo, this sucks.
Walking the
world for life or whatever. But was she an actual vampire at that point? Or did she maybe turn into maybe she bit on something, was like the only way she could survive was like eat something raw, and then she got a taste for the blood and she was like, oh, this is kind of good.
Maybe.
I don't know. And what if she turned Cain into a vampire, actually?
Yeah.
So he was like the first generation of vampires.
That's where it's interesting, because the lore, obviously, Christianity is involved, and I know I bring Christianity out a lot. But the next correlation of the immortals and possible vampires is actually Judas.
Yes.
The curse of the 30 coins led to him getting cursed for life to walk the world again immortal and to live off of blood.
So you wonder if like that curse is basically just Lilith coming back and biting people and going, okay, you're cursed now.
Or is it just lore that anybody immortal isn't a vampire and then has to drink blood?
Yeah, I guess maybe that's like you can't have it all, right? You live forever, but you need to drink blood. I wonder where like all the mysticism though with vampires came from. Like, vampires are afraid of garlic. Vampires don't like crosses. Vampires can't walk in the daylight. Like,
they're afraid of holy water.
They're afraid of holy water. I mean, I guess if you're a Christian vampire, maybe, and you believed that before you got turned, maybe you're afraid of the cross, I guess.
I mean, garlic could be pretty potent. People could be just having
maybe somebody held up something to a vampire and they had an allergic reaction to it.
Maybe.
And this is where the myth came from. But who knows? I mean, there's so much of that sprouted in folklore, and you wonder how much of it is actually real.
I would say that when you bring the Christianity aspect into it, probably not a whole lot. I mean, everything is based off a little bit of truth. One of the things I find interesting, just in the way the world has been these last couple of years, you hear a lot of, what do they call it, with the elites, like the adenochromes, and they're all like bloodsuckers or drinkers. But the interesting thing, I don't know if any of you have seen that documentary about the tech billionaire that decided he wanted to prolong his life and went through all the different things. So there's PRP, which is a form of spitting down the blood to platelets and then transfusing that into people for cellular healing. He also did it where he got the blood from his son to spin that, and then he gave his blood to his father to spin that, and they actually did show that it helped with the longevity.
So was it the stem cells or was it the platelets?
It was the platelets. Yeah, it's platelets. Yeah. So they would transfuse the platelets into the next person. So I think that's interesting. Like, maybe there's something to this.
So maybe all of those, rulers that bathed in the blood of virgins or children.
Right.
Maybe there was something to that.
Maybe there's something to that.
To help extend your life or to
I mean,
for immortality.
clearly, science has shown that it does benefit. So maybe there's something to the
So
immortality.
is that like a would you consider that tech bro dude like a modern day vampire then?
I suppose he could be
I mean,
considered
he's
one.
draining
I
blood from
mean,
his son,
he
right?
wants to be immortal. He's draining the sun from his. I mean, the sun is willingly giving it to them.
Well, he's a
But
kid,
again,
right? So he probably
again with vampires, there's that other lore of like they're almost like Jedis. They can say like Jedi mind trick you into the hypnotic state of willing, bending to their will. So
interesting.
is that happening with his son? He's like, hey, sonny boy, so you're gonna give me your blood. And then it's consensual because he's like, yeah, sure, Dad. You never know.
So vampires throughout history, like they started off as like these monstrous. Well, not necessarily. It was Lilith, was in all of her depictions is pretty hot. I think she's like
I think she was given the hotness,
the hot factor.
I mean, we don't know what Cain looked like, but he's probably hot as well.
Yep. I mean, the
Judas was
progenitor of the
fucking
line.
ugly. That's all I know. I can't imagine somebody with the name of Judas. Sorry if there's a Judas out there, but the name itself, like, I don't know, maybe it's that Christianity vibe. It's just not given hotness.
It's yes, I would agree with you. But then, in folklore, vampires are viewed as like, at least early folklore, they're viewed as like these bat-looking creatures. I don't know how they got associated with bats in the first place, but they're monstrous creatures, right? That have lived for a long time and they're shriveled up and they take that form, I guess. And so, they can cast an illusion spell to make themselves look human and very charismatic and all of that, but then underneath it there's this monstrosity.
Yes.
But as as time has passed, we've moved from the monstrosity sort of thing to more of like, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and then now the vampire Lestat, where all of these guys are like, wow.
Then we have Edward Cullen and
Twilight,
vampires.
the sparkly vampire types, things like that. So it's moved on to where vampires are much more part of mainstream society, but they're also super good looking, super charismatic with, they've rolled 20 on all their attributes. So
I guess you could say that the Victorian era brought with it some hotness to vampires. We went from like Snaggletooth, Snarly, Nosferatu to, Bram Stoker's Dracula, which kind of gave some hotness, but maybe it's the fact that he sold his soul to Satan for retribution of his wife getting murdered, and then he sees Mina all these years later and ends up rekindling that romance, only for her to chop his head off and stab. Wait, I can't remember. She stake through the heart and then chopping his head off, or something along those lines. I think that'll do it.
Again, there's the other that myth, right? That you have to stab a vampire through the heart with a wooden stake,
and then decapitate him.
Oh yeah, and then cut his head off, so he doesn't ever come back again. Which is or burn him. I think that's another one.
Burnham's another one, but they always seem to come back after the burning. Yeah. So I do know that going back to the more of the modern age vampire, that's when the lore of the stake through the heart, people coming out of their graves came about. Early Mesopotamia actually had a version of vampires, but they didn't have that lore attached to them.
That's super interesting. I wonder. Again, it's maybe somebody encountered something like that, or that was the only thing that they had,
right?
And then they stabbed somebody with it, and they died. So they're like, "Wow, this killed." Okay, cool.
They associate it with vampires, yes.
Right. And then the holy water thing, I don't know where that came from, but I guess if you are Christian, you believe that water is sanctified, and evil beings are repelled by that sort of thing. I guess if you believe it, it would work, but I guess the vampire also has to believe that it works too in order for it to be a thing.
If the vampire is a demon, and then in the Christian lore of things, anything demonic is susceptible to holy water, then yes, that would work. But if you're not going with that kind of vibe and vampires are just like a cursed creature that walks the planet, then maybe it wouldn't work on them.
Huh. Super interesting to think about, though. And then segueing on, there are different vampire types.
There are different vampire types.
Because back then it was just one vampire, blood-sucking vampire. Yes. We're afraid. But I guess now over time there are different categories of vampires. So what are some of them?
So there's a sanguine, there's energy vampires. There's so many.
What are sanguines?
The sanguines are the bloodsuckers.
Okay, so those guys are the bloodsuckers.
Yes. There's the The energy vampires,
Okay.
which I mean, it's in its own name. Like they suck your energy away.
So
I've
they take
known
your
many
energy.
of them.
Got it.
And then there's there's so many different versions. I don't know if I can dial down to them because I didn't research all of them. There's a traditional vampire, the one that we know and love through all of the depictions through movies and histories and books. And then there's vampire culture, which opens a book to so many or the different types of vampires out there. You see it all over TikToks of the people that are like, you know what, this is my culture. And it's not so much that they associate themselves to that monstrosity part of the vampire. They're more in line with like, this is just the culture that I want to be embraced in.
Okay, so it's like it's the vampire life.
It's the vampire
So
life,
living
yes.
the vampire life.
Yep.
So you've been to the Vampire Ball.
I did. I went
was
to
it in New
Anne
Orleans?
Rice. Yes, it was.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's got to be like filled with all of these different types of...
It was so fascinating. Like I was obviously like a noob to the whole situation, my friend and I that had gone, but there were people that are actually from New Orleans that were there. And if I would ever say there was a vampire, there were several people there that were giving that vibe, that there was some authenticity to them. And you could say that they had the look that kind of gives like they've spanned generations. It was really interesting. There was one in particular, like beautiful corset dress, and she actually has a boutique within New Orleans itself in the downtown area, and she just like her and her partner just gave freaking vampire vibes. She was gorgeous, like pale skin. I don't know if she was or was not, but if anybody would have been there, like it was her, and then she had all these friends that were with her that also gave the vibe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder, now I've been thinking about this a lot. What if people who are considered vampires are people who have kind of figured out that this whole thing is an illusion and that there is no time?
Like the Matrix kind of
thing? So
Okay.
they figured out how that, if they're living in the present, they don't age. Like they figured out how to actually, from an energy standpoint, do that.
Like dimensions?
Yeah, like so they know that past and, for example, past and future don't really exist. Everything is happening at the same time. So age is an illusion.
Right.
So for them, they figured that out and lived that. So they don't ever age. From the moment that they figured out that was it and saw through the illusion, that became their existence.
Are we talking like Doctor Strange, where he does his little thing and then next thing you know they can jump into a different dimension, so they kind of stay that same age into different places? Are we talking like residual energy where they're still in that same time frame but they're just kind of reliving it?
No, they've figured out that if I have a certain belief system now, and I don't ever think that I will age again because everything is happening right now.
I mean, if somebody can wield that and make that a true thing, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, but they're using energy that they've either they harvest energy from people, they're using the energy of the universe or whatever in order to continue to maintain that. That could be interesting. I don't know. It's just a theory.
That's an interesting theory.
Right.
I mean, harnessing energy in itself, like the energy vampires, how many people that we've encountered in our daily lives that just one, 5-minute encounter with them or less, and then our energy has been drained for the day.
Yeah. I've experienced that before too.
It's so hard.
I've experienced that before too.
Yeah.
So I wonder, and maybe there's something to that, right? Because the blood at the end of the day carries life.
It does.
Energy.
It does. Yeah.
So maybe that whole act of just drinking blood, you're not really taking the blood for nourishment. You're taking energy.
You're taking the energy from. Yes.
So modern day vampires have probably figured out, hey, you know what? That blood thing, not interested. But the energy thing is really what we're after to continue to maintain this level of immortality.
Yeah. I would say it would be interesting along those lines, like you talk about the different types of witchcraft and those that actually do blood magic, right? Everything that I've ever read like says that if you use blood magic, it exponentially increases the power of whatever spell or whatever your ritual you're doing. So the life force within the blood itself, that energy within the blood itself, does it magnify things in order for you to even become immortal? I mean, is that behind all the lore of the adrenochrome and I know it's not with the platelet pheresis, like that's completely different. Yeah.
I think as humans have evolved and technology's evolved, I think that people have become more open to other possibilities.
Yeah.
I think blood in and of itself back then, if you think about it, right, blood gives life. It is the thing. So
Right.
it would make sense that you would correlate it to something very powerful. When in reality, it's just energy. And the only way they knew how to harness energy was to do that.
Yeah. What if there was a vampire that was so tired of having to drink all the blood and really wanted to dial down just to get to the platelets because maybe there's something to the platelets that they were like, you know what, let me get a centrifuge and like spin this down and see if I can refine this down to what I actually want. And that's how PRP became a thing. I mean,
think about it, right?
That's kind of cool.
If you're living for a long ass time, you would think that you'd probably spend some time researching stuff.
Right. I know, like when it comes to energy drinks, like I don't necessarily want a big can to get the 200 milligrams of caffeine. If I can get it in a little,
just a shot,
or like a Monster, a Rockstar, then I'm going for the smaller version to get what I want. So it would be interesting to think if there's something to that. And then one of the things I do love is like there's so many things that we use PRP for in healthcare. We use it for recovery, tissue growth, but facials, the PRP facials or the vampire facials. I love that that's a thing. I love that that's a thing. It's like, oh, vampire facials, and it is associated with that, but it does add youth and rejuvenation to your face when you have it done. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That's actually really neat. So I am super interested in this topic, and we could probably go on forever, and maybe we need a part 2 where we talk about each one of these groups in detail. That would be kind of neat. But let's talk about some stories, because I think people love stories, and we've gone through Reddit and looked at some stuff, and there are definitely some stories of encounters with vampires in different places. Like New Orleans is one that's massive, but I mean, there's Prague, like the old country, Chicago,
Egypt.
Seattle, Egypt, different places. It's super cool to kind of read through some of these things that have happened with people. And so I've got one to share, and I know you've got one to share. So let's get started. I guess I can share first. This one's really interesting, and it's really short. It came from the Our Paranormal Reddit thread. So it's this girl who's going out with her friends, right? She's out at a bar, and it's like 2009. So she says, it was Tuesday night, so everything was pretty empty. The theme of my party was The Creep from Lonely Island. So me and my girls were all dressed up in silly costumes. There were 2 super attractive, nicely dressed guys that asked me out to dance because they enjoyed my outfit. We did some legitimately innocent dancing, and afterwards they asked me what the occasion was. I said, it's my birthday. Told them that they were cool with it, and it made my night. And so I asked for a picture. And so they kind of hesitated a little bit, and they looked at each other, but ultimately they agreed. And so we lined up at the bar, arm in arm, doing that side hug thing that we tend to do for pictures. And so my friend then took the picture. They weren't there. My friend took another picture. Still, they weren't there. You could see me alone against the bar, and all the glasses and bottles that were lined up behind the bar in the spaces that should have been blocked by the 2 guys. I didn't understand what I was looking at. They came over, looked at the screen, and one of them said, looks like you're alone. Have a good one. And then they moved away. And a second later, I looked up, and they were gone.
That's pretty awesome.
So again, it's that encounter of like, were they vampires? Were they spirits?
Were they spirits? They could have been.
They
could have been.
Were they jinn? I mean, so there's so many possibilities. There's so many possibilities. But they, she says
they were something.
She said that she ended up talking with her friends afterward, and they all agreed that they could have been vampires.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting. I don't know. It was
I like
cool.
that one. That one's a good one. That one's definitely
and
a
the fact that they came up and were like, yeah, you're alone.
Yeah. The hesitation and then the
you didn't no pictures, nothing.
That's a good one. Mine is in line with Anne Rice's Vampire Lestat. This is a somebody that's retelling an encounter they had in the 1970s. So it's called Encounter with the Vampire. I admit I have written to Anne Rice about the account of my encounter with the vampire. I find it interesting that she first wrote Interview with a Vampire in 1973. This book was published in 1976, but I didn't read it until 1980. Upon reading this book, I felt like she may have met the same person I met in 1973. I never received a reply from her. I do realize she probably gets thousands of emails per month on her website. I wrote her back in 2001. I have told my story several times to different people and always get the same response, one of disbelief. Although my mother and sister sometimes still tease me asking, do you remember when you dated a vampire? I'm now 51 years old. 34 years ago, I was 17, and the summer I was working for the U.S. Forest Service as an intern through the government program called Neighborhood Youth Courts. We planted trees and dug potential wildfire break lines in the forest in northern Idaho. A firefight crew came into town midsummer since it was particularly dry, and was on standby just in case they were needed. Among the crew was a most beautiful young man I had ever seen.
She's struck now.
Oh, she is so struck. He had long blonde hair, perfectly symmetrical features. He reminded me more of a refined version of Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin. He was tall and handsome and everything I ever thought I would give my virginity up to.
Wow.
I spent a lot of time just looking at him. Apparently he noticed and began talking to me when his crew came into town from their forest stations.
Okay, so she's striking up the conversation.
Yeah,
she's sprung on this dude already.
She's planting the seed that she likes him.
Yes.
He asked me out and I was ecstatic.
Ooh, boy.
We met for dinner several times, always late after 10 p.m. He never ate, urging me to order whatever I wanted and whatever I would like to have, and he would give me a glass of wine. I never knew how old he was, but the drinking age in Idaho at the time was 19. He also had a European accent of some sort.
Huh.
He said he was from Germany. We would part from the restaurant. He never made any attempt to kiss me, which I thought was very strange since the other guy I had dated prior was always all over me.
So they always went to dinner.
They always went to dinner, order whatever you want.
He ordered what, and he just watched her
and
eat.
he just watched.
And then he gave her a glass
yes.
of wine. Is he fattening her up
I mean,
for like
he might
Thanksgiving
be,
dinner?
or that, or it's like the first version of a mukbanger.
Oh, maybe he's a fetish. He just likes watching her eat.
Maybe.
Okay.
You never know. There's all kinds of kinks out there, like I said.
People that have feeder fetishes.
Right. One night, I suggested we meet at my place very near my apartment, as I plan to ask him back to my house afterwards for whatever.
She's already
I wanted him.
Yes.
Fast forward to my apartment. After opening a bottle of wine and chatting, he said he wanted to take me into his confidence because he really liked me. He continued to say that he usually doesn't tell anyone the truth about himself because it scares people. Okay, that's when she felt a flash of fear.
Yeah. What's the secret? I'm a serial killer.
Right?
Like what?
He then went on to tell me that he was from Germany and it was over 400 years ago and that he was a vampire. I didn't know what to say, so I asked, what do you mean, vampire? He said he was from an aristocratic family that had chosen him and was chosen and attacked by a vampire in his family's estate. He was made a vampire by his attacker. By virtue of what had become, he left with his other vampire and traveled all over the world. He came to hate his friend came to hate him so much that they branched out of this town to France after many years. I asked him if he drank blood and killed people. He paused and said, yes. Sometimes he chose to take a human life. Of course, at this point, her fear was turning into terror.
I bet.
He was either a psychopath with a really interesting story or he was a real thing, and either way, she was worried she was going to die. She told him that he was scaring her, and he said that he probably would. He said that he thought he probably would, and this was not his intention. Sorry for the helicopter in the background. It was hard for him to make friends, and he felt that he could trust someone he would tell the truth about himself since his lifestyle was not ordinary, and he needed acceptance, and he had to maintain a friendship with those that he let in. He also told her that he wasn't expecting to have sex. And that he would agree to sex, but it was no longer pleasurable to him, and he knew that it was pleasurable to the normals.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So by this time, she's freaking out and said, you should leave. I remember he looked really sad. He said, of course he would leave, but he wanted to think about me about being friends with him. I said, I don't think so. You need to leave. He slowly got up and picked up his jacket and reached inside his pockets with a pen and paper. I was really shaking by this time and thought every move was a ploy that for him to kill me. But he wrote his phone number on it on a camp piece of paper and said, if you change your mind, call me. And then he left. When he walked out the door, I was trembling so bad I could barely dial the phone. I called my mother to come and get me and take me home that night. I told her I just ended a date with a really creepy, scary guy and I placed the floor. Oh,
I paced the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. I paced the floor until she got there listening for sounds that might indicate that he's breaking into the apartment. I told my parents and they said I did the right thing by calling them. My dad said, it's time for you to move out of this apartment, and I did. I never called the guy, and I never saw him again. I've never forgotten him. I thought he was psycho until I read the Interview with a Vampire. I wondered 28 years later if his name was actually Lestat. Believe me or not, there you have it. I am blind, by the way, which is why I have a hard time reading.
Wow, that's a lot. That one's a lot. So he's working the Forest Service.
Mm-hmm.
He's German.
He's a daywalker if he's a vampire.
Well,
right?
yeah. I mean,
you can't build lines for fire barriers.
Yeah, no. And so he likes her enough that he's like, I'm going to tell you something. Mm-hmm. And I'm a vampire and I'm 400 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, this can't be the only time he's done that. So he's got to know how people are going to react potentially.
Yeah.
To it.
I mean, I'm some people would be like, sign me up.
There
are others that wouldn't.
I suppose this was after, this was before like vampires were like super crazy mainstream, right? Like they are now.
I mean, you had Bram Stoker's.
Yeah, you had Dracula, stuff like that.
You had Nosferatu's in like the old movies that were black and white. Right. But I mean, the closest to any kind of like allure probably would have been Dracula.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the reason why he told her? That's what I want to know.
Because he wanted someone to share a life with.
Did he want to scare her and feed off of her energy? Because she got scared.
Maybe. That could have been it. I mean, if he was like truly sad, I think that would be one of the things that would make me not want to become a vampire, because there's like many advantages to becoming a vampire. But I think between like the blood sucking, which I don't know if I would enjoy. I mean, obviously it's probably pleasurable to them, but the fact that you may be living a lonely existence it's really sad for eternity. Like that would be hard. That's a hard sell.
Yeah, I don't know.
How about you?
I don't know. I don't think I would want to become a vampire.
Yeah.
No. I kind of gravitate more towards like the shapeshifter types, lycanthropes, people like that, skinwalkers. That would be more my jam, not necessarily so much a vampire.
I mean, the vampire Lestat, that character is pretty amazing. Just the way that his character spans, he becomes a rock star. That's an interesting story of a vampire, but I mean, you never know. There could be vampires out there that are rock stars. You never know. But just from the idea, the thing that would be alluring is like, I've always wanted like superhuman powers just to do one thing. I'm sure there's other things but the one thing that always comes to mind is like, I could murder all the people that like rape and abuse people, like especially children.
So
I'd be like, you're done.
Become a vigilante?
Oh, hell yeah. I would be like a total vampire vigilante.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could do
that would be like the only incentive for me to become a vampire. I'd be like, you're done and you're done.
I wonder if there's like a hierarchy though. Like if you're looking at vampires in general, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's a hierarchy of supernatural beings. Mm-hmm. So vampires, can they be controlled by like a witch or something like that? I mean, is there a thing like that happens?
Yeah. I think there's a book series, a Discovery of Witches book series, which is now a series on AMC, one of those channels, that it's a love story between a witch and a vampire. So you never know. I mean, there's obviously like Twilight, it was werewolves against vampires, but then within the own culture, there's a hierarchy, whether we see it in Underworld or we see it in Twilight, like all those fictional things have the secret societies of vampires, which I mean, in life itself, you have the old world money and aristocrats, and then you have the new world money and aristocrats. So I think that if you're creating that story, or if that's where it is, there's absolutely the potential for a hierarchy. Whether or not one being is more powerful than the other, I think we're getting into, like, it reminds me of video games. Like, the sorcerer is more powerful than the skinwalker. I mean,
yeah, who knows, right? I think people like to fictionalize things and try to label things and get into situations where they're like, well, yeah, I mean, in my mind, the vampire is way more powerful than just a mere werewolf, or blah 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 blah, right? Because I don't know, they find pleasure in that, dude. But I don't think that there's anything necessarily to that. But do you think, in your looking at all the stuff that you've read and researched, do you think that vampires exist?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, even if we go down to the fact that there's a culture of vampires that are not immortal and are not monsters, then yeah, absolutely they exist.
Okay.
So if you want to go basic like that, is there some immortal out there? I would probably say yes. I think immortality exists. I don't know how people become, if it's a curse or if it's, I don't know, they have like something that happens to them. You know, they get bit by a radioactive spider, and next thing you know, you don't become Spider-Man, you become immortal. I don't know.
I think those people have cracked a code. I think that they have.
I think that's a possibility.
They figured out energetically how to understand that everything here is, like, you know, part of an illusion, and they figured out how to live past that.
So what you're saying is you believe in the Matrix.
It's the simulation theory, potentially, right? So they understand that, or if the idea that there's multiple dimensions that exist and everything exists simultaneously, maybe they figured out ways to move through different timelines, and that, you know, age doesn't exist, so they're able to just kind of move through timelines as they're going, not aging at all.
Right. I mean, if I had a choice and I had discovered that, I would hope I would have been in my like late 20s, because that was a good time. My skin looked great.
I guess it's whenever you wake up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why vampires are either super young or they're, you know, older.
Yeah.
And it is what it is at that point.
Except for poor Claudia. She was a little kid.
How old was she?
She was like, I don't remember the exact age, but it sounded like she was not quite, maybe around 11, like 9 through puberty type of era. Yeah, she was really young.
Okay.
And not young enough to still want to play with dolls.
And play with kids.
Yeah. And play with
people,
kids.
And kill them.
And yes.
Crazy. So, that being said, if you have a great vampire story, we'd love to hear it. If you are a vampire, we'd love to hear that too. So feel free to email us at thevineandtheveil@gmail.com and let us know. And we definitely want to have another part 2 of this one, because there's so many different aspects of vampire lore, vampire life.
Yes, it's actually overwhelming. I was like, I need direction.
Which way
because there's
go?
So much. Like, do we go like history? Do we do a deep dive in history? There's so much. And then there's so much that, like, so many characters that exist now. Like, we could totally do an episode on Smash and Pass, because there's so many vampires in media.
Who was your, like, if you had to pick one that was like your vampire crush, who is it? One. Only one.
One. I would say Dracula from Dracula Untold. I kind of vibed with him.
Mine is Celine from Underworld.
Of course.
Kate Beckinsale. Amazing.
Yeah, she is amazing. Although Kate Beckinsale as a vampire in Van Helsing is also hot.
Was she the vampire hunter, though? Wasn't she part of the vampire hunter
group,
or was she a vampire?
Oh, wait, no, she was the werewolf, because her brother was turned into a werewolf, right? I think.
I don't remember.
We'll have to rewatch it.
I'll have to rewatch it. But her and Underworld, hands down, my favorite.
For sure.
Yes,
for sure.
She was a badass.
Yeah.
So anyway, that concludes our podcast. So tune in next time where we talk about part 2 of vampires. It's going to be awesome. And I think we'll go into a lot more detail into, like, the different vampire groups and even some into the vampire culture, because I think that's also super fascinating.
It's very fascinating. Yeah.
And I want to hear more about your experience at the Vampire Ball, because there's got to be some really interesting people that you met.
There were some really interesting people that I met, and just, I mean, the party in itself, they had fortune tellers, and that is and I have a theory about fortune tellers that I found a commonality with a lot of the people that I met in New Orleans. They all had something in common. I was like,
Makes you go.
So I think, yeah, we'll definitely dive into that. It was a really interesting experience, and I would love to go again because it was so much.
Oh, I want to go too. I can't wait.
Oh man, that was definitely a bucket list thing, and it was a great time. Yeah.
And on that note, thank you guys. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.